What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's time for day 2. Almost said it's day for time 2, but whichever way, here we are, the second day of the finals, of course, about to get underway. And with me, once again, we've got the lovely Span Cargo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, slowly but surely moving out of my apartment here. That's why I can still see some boxes, but otherwise good, and I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So we saw the teams going at it yesterday, and of course, as you know, as per usual, we need to get into some results to see what the standings are coming into today. So speaking of which, if I can remember to unmute myself, we're going to be jumping straight up into the results of yesterday's games. And of course, we see the players there from Active Gaming sitting way up in pole position on 75 points, 26 points ahead of Genesis, who we see over in towards that second place. And of course, then we've got the players from Old Guard over in third place, just 2 points behind Genesis. Then of course we've got Dream Team, we've got Your Killer Is, as well as the players there from Tactical, and then also Atrox over in 7th place. Over in 8th we've got Resurrection, we've got Version 3 in 9th place. Then, of course, the players from Extra Esports sitting all the way down over in towards 10th place. So some interesting standings in, and quite some disparity between these teams with regards to points.
Yeah, and I mean, they still have a few more games to go on ahead and play today. There's just a few shelves I'd also like to point out of points. I mean, Active Gaming with 75 total points, that's a big jump compared to then Genesis Esports with 49. And I think we even see that a little bit later as well. Actually, the rest of everybody else seems relatively close to each other.
Especially from from 10th place to 8th place, they're also fairly close together. Then the gap starts increasing as you progress up that leaderboard. But of course, from like 11th downwards, there's quite a bit of a gap between them and the players who we have sitting at the top of that leaderboard. But of course, speaking about the leaderboard, we have to jump into the match to see what this flight path is doing. And of course, as you can see, it is coming in all the way there from that Sosnovka military island, making its way up in towards Severny. So a fairly decent flight path to get everything started off here today. So this is going to be interesting to see, especially those teams sitting from 11th place downwards. That, of course, being the players from Blank Legion, African Rise, Juntas, GHETTO Youth, XTREME Gaming, as well as the 7 Deadly Sins. I'm curious to see how they're going to be performing in today's matches, as they are really in need of those points.
Yeah, I mean, if they go on ahead and if they were able to go on ahead and take a look at how their performance was yesterday and what everybody else was able to do, maybe they'll have taken some sort of learning from that, kind of understand the lobby a little bit better, and maybe because of that they'll be able to play today's games a bit better, at least with more knowledge.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these teams are going to be doing. Of course, now, as you can see, also that zone shifting down in towards the south. So this already means we're going to be having a very spicy match, especially for the first one to kick the day off. Just looking at where these teams have dropped as well. So usually when the zone does this, I mean, this just means chaos. This is just insanity is going to start following it pretty soon. So I'm curious to see what the teams are going to be doing, especially those ones like we mentioned just now, the ones sitting at the lower end of that leaderboard, because if they are able to find a good positioning within the zone in the early game, that could really help them as they progress through the phases. They won't be in such a potentially, call it threatening position almost.
I agree. I mean, I like what the old guards are doing right now. They got vehicles. They looted a tiny bit, but right when the zone popped, they instantly got on their vehicles and started making a rotation onto that island. They don't want to have any sort of questions on whether or not they're going to be able to cross later. Since they're moving so early, nobody is going to be able to go and hold them out just yet. So they obviously are going to go and have a free pass. And I feel like those teams that we mentioned that need to go ahead and make something happen today, they might need to start being proactive like that too.
And it's I noticed that there's one of the teams that we are missing. So that is, of course, the players from slot 12. So that is the team from version 3 that we are not seeing in the lobby at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not they'll be attending from the second match going forward, because they're currently sitting over in 9th place on 12 points. So they are also kind of low-key in need of those points. So I mean, it's a little bit of a tough one if you're already missing out in one match, especially in the early phases of the finals, because that is where you kind of set up that that foundation of your point structure. And, I mean, Active Gaming already off to a really strong start for their standing so far.
Yeah, they just have to go on ahead and continue what they were doing. What they did yesterday obviously works. So if they go and continue that, that's only going to go and strengthen their lead. And I mean, they're already in, like you already said, a great position. And even who we're looking at right now, I mean, African Rise here, it looks like they're trying to figure out their own rotation. They end up getting a little bit close to some other people around them, but luckily are able to find themselves a little bit of a safe spot for now. That's also a team that luckily got away because they need to start making things happen. And with this huge split, it's kind of concerning.
Yeah, I don't know if Savage is... Okay, so Savage is here. I thought maybe for a moment that Savage could potentially be AFK or something like that. But it seems they are just going for that exceptionally wide split. So, I mean, if it's executed properly, it could be a really beneficial maneuver. But, I mean, I don't really see that paying off just yet. Unless, of course, you know, something phenomenal happens along the way and they really find a way to capitalize on that split. But aside from that, I think, you know, they should really consider potentially maybe moving a little bit closer together.
Yeah, that's such a huge split. I mean, if anybody catches Savage alone there, he's surely going to go on ahead and be taken down. His teammates are too far away to be able to go and crash back on him and protect him. So I think this split is, I don't think it's voluntary, but even if it is, hopefully they'll be able to go ahead and get back together before they try to tackle making a move over to this next zone.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what it is that they're going to be prioritizing, whether or not it's going to be, you know, for the team to rejoin, or whether or not they're going to try and potentially move up into some form of a position down in towards those southern reaches. But now looking back over in towards the north, we've got the players from Genesis positioned up in and around the southern George region. Your killer is, of course, over in North George. And then we see the players there from Extra positioned all the way up over in towards Zaki. So that is quite a considerable distance for them to cover to make it all the way down back into zone. Fortunately, blue zone is still pretty far out. It is now starting to close in. But I'm curious to see where they're going to be choosing to rotate up into.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the hard thing, right? When the plane path is so big and it does hard shift down to military base, you're so far away that there really is no point trying to make an early rotation. You might as well just stay and get all the loot that you can get. So then when you do eventually make it into zone where everybody is, hopefully they're already fighting, and then hopefully you obviously have more loot that's going to help you win those fights trying to fight your way on in.
Yeah, it's going to be... It's going to be pretty tough. I mean, especially now, like we were watching the players there from Blank Legion also coming in with a bit of a weird split for the team. Again, I wouldn't really advise for, you know, in favor of that, as we already saw them losing a teammate in the process. And I mean, it's going to be a pretty tough one to bounce back from that. But now we look over towards this western bridge. We see the players there from 7 Deadly Sins starting to make their approach. They're sitting currently halfway down the bridge. Of course, on the opposite end, we got the team here from the old guard right there up in position, waiting, setting up a bit of a gatekeep position here. So I'm curious to see whether or not the 7 Deadly Sins are going to try and push across, or they're going to try and make an alternative route to get back onto that island.
Yeah, I mean, they're still for right now. Have they spotted them out? I'm not quite sure, but Old Guard, I mean, they were able to make it across early on, and it looks like they're trying to capitalize off of that by bridge camping here. All three of them are here. They have another person actually behind them in the compounds below. I mean, probably just holding themselves a spot a little bit further inside. And oh, right as it happens, it looks like 7 Deadly Sins is in fact making a push on over, and it's starting with a knock onto one of the members of Old Guards.
Seven Deadly Sins just rushing up into the front. And of course, already one player there from Seven Deadly Sins going down below. A very interesting maneuver coming from them. Oh, just finding the head straight into the side here of Old Guard. Joey fortunately being able to get over onto that farther south positioning. Just, you know, to secure the anchor point they can. Of course, as you can see, Joey and Inferno now starting to rotate back on further in towards that Sosnovka Island. But a nice bit of aggression coming in there from Seven Deadly Sins, though.
Yeah, I mean, they knew that they had to go on ahead and cross the bridge, and luckily they were able to take the fight and do it, needless to say. Usually it's so hard being on the other side of that bridge camp, but they were able to recover from it very, very well and actually pick up a lot of nice kills. And it also looks like other people are trying to get across onto the military island in other alternative ways. A little bit of some swimmers here, and it looks like one of the members from Blank Legion wants to punish them out because of it.
Yeah, I mean, Detective now just doing his thing, searching for evidence of the players in the water. And an interesting approach coming in here from Patriot, managing to find that angle right there on the cliffside. So just managing to elude Detective for the time being. But it's a fairly strange rotation from them as well. I mean, they were situated over towards that eastern bridge, deciding to take a little bit of a wider rotation all the way over towards where we see Detective now. And then taking a jump into the drink. So that is a bit of a real wide rotation coming in, and I don't know if it's really going to be too beneficial for them though.
Then it isn't going to be able to go on ahead and catch. I mean, these rocks are going to be so difficult. Of course, the person below in the water is in the worst spot of the situation, unable to really look up and take some shots back. But if he's just able to jump on top of the tiniest little ittiest bit of land, he should be able to heal on up and potentially shoot back as well. Tech, though, it seems like he's committed to this. He's not making a rotation anywhere. He just kind of wants to take this person out before he does anything else.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to try and get their way out of this one. As Panda, once again, I was also pretty isolated from the rest of the team. You can also see the remaining players here from ATROX also now pushing it down over in towards Novo. But we have the teams now all starting to converge down over in towards the southern reaches. We see the team there from Juntas also now trying to make their way over towards this western bridge. In fact, Bumblebee now heading up towards the lighthouse. The shots, of course, now following hard on the heels there. So an interesting position that we see coming in from the players there from Extreme. A really good positioning, especially with the potential of so many teams still having to cross over onto that island.
Yeah, I'm interested that they went on ahead and took Glass House. They didn't go for a full split onto this. Usually you see people who are bridge camping take Glass House, take up where Bumblebee actually is, up on top of that lighthouse. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. But instead, they're all inside Glass. It looks like one of them went on ahead and moved over to Wizard. From here, they can really only try to hold one side of it, but that's not the entire picture. That's not the entire bridge hold. I'm kind of curious if this is just a location that they were hanging out until the next zone's shifted. I wonder if Nox has a boat underneath that bridge, because I know that there's usually a spawn there.
Well, let's have a gander. Doesn't seem... Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's... Oh, there is in fact a boat right underneath, lying in wait. Good call on that one. I mean, see, that's why we got you here. You can just spot out all these all these spawns. You're like, yeah, there's a boat there. Like, really? Yes, look, boat.
There should be.
Yeah, we found it. We found it. So good call on that one. Yeah. But of course, now we see a few more teams still trying to push in. We have the players here from African Rise also now on the approach. As you can see them just off over towards the south there. The remainder of Juntas also now just moving up in towards that fuel station. But we see Bumblebee now starting to take a bit of an engagement onto the side there of Extreme.
Yeah, he was able to hold this position for a while. You can see the rest of his team now joining him up on the northern side at that gas station. If any of them are able to catch some shots onto Team Extreme Gaming, I mean, that could be the instant push and demise of that team. So I'm hoping that Nox finding that boat, if that really was their intentions and their gameplay, that they need to start to get going very shortly.
So one thing we don't see too often on mobile is this. Here we go, African Rise.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was like a bug.
I also thought it was a bug, and then I was like, oh yeah, hang on. You know, we've got the glider. I forgot about the glider. So here we are. One of the first few teams we see really, you know, in a competitive scene using the glider to make their way on in. And so far, a fairly successful passage for them. They haven't been shot out of the air just yet. And I also don't think the players are too accustomed to be looking up to see where the opposing players might be.
Much. Oh no. Definitely don't want to see that happening. Oh, but they landed it. They're fine. I love that so much. That is definitely a different way to make yourselves onto the military base island, especially because you don't want to touch those bridges whatsoever.
I mean, that is how you just arrive in style, you know. Grab a glider, come flying in, do a bit of an alternative landing, but still landing it on all 3 wheels on the ground. So at the end of the day, still a 10 out of 10 for the effort. A really good approach, making it over across. And I mean, if utilized properly, you can actually pull off a pretty interesting sneak attack that way.
Yep, and it looks like Vegas here has in fact spotted out some of their tires, trying to pop them, making it so that they'd have to actually take a run down this bridge and take this fight with them, but not quite gonna happen. And if they don't act carefully and quickly, it looks like they might be slowly picked off from behind. One of their teammates actually taken down in the compound behind them. I mean, we saw that one of them, Vegas, actually turned around to see if he could do anything, but you kind of have to commit to something at this point. It looks like they're committing to holding out Tactical.
Yeah, they caught in between a bridge and a hard place. As you can see, the team from Tactical up ahead, the players from ATROX down over towards the south. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how this then, of course, will run its course. Will we see the players there from ATROX continue to push into the position? As we can see, Ted Bundy also now quickly just retreating and trying to reinforce that positioning over towards Cloud. Gad and Vigas, of course, now on the opposite end. Now just trying to make the most of this position they have. Strangely enough, though, we see Trippy Main and his teammates now just getting blown up in their vehicle, getting those knocks coming on through. Fortunately for them, that wasn't a complete squad wipe just yet, but it is going to be pretty close. I don't think they're in the red zone. In fact, I don't even know where they are.
I have no idea. And it does look like, Active Gaming wants to try and leave the situation as well, but really it's just down to Gad trying to get away, and it looks like Ted Bundy as well trying to get the res into one of the down teammates. But meanwhile, unfortunately, I think that they're gonna have to leave their one teammate up on the northern side down to bleed out. I mean, there's no way that they can go ahead and retrieve them, especially as Tactical Esports has now arrived and they still have that team lingering directly beside them to the east.
Yeah, I mean, this is where things are going to get pretty tough, and of course you can't judge them too hard for their decisions there. Oh, as we see the players here from Tactical also now trying to just wrap around a little bit, trying to also cross behind in that fuel station. But unfortunately, they also didn't know that there was another team right up ahead of them. So a fairly interesting and maybe even a very fruitful positioning coming in here for the side of ATROX.
Yeah, they were able to go on ahead and play this crossroads angle. I mean, I'm a little bit just surprised. They ended up getting a knock onto some of the members of Active Gaming, and they decided not to be super aggressive on top of it. Instead, they continued to stay inside their crossroads, and now, as you can see, they're getting in their vehicle. It looks like they're just ready to leave. All 4 of them in the same vehicle. That's very dangerous. I think they realize that as they're all now jumping on out. Someone from up above, Dream Team, is actually doing a lot of damage to that vehicle.
Yeah, really good positioning coming in from Dream Team. A little bit of deja vu, not from the PUBG Mobile side, but from our other match that we casted. I mean, it is a bit of deja vu, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the zone is going to end in a similar kind of way. As we now look at the zone, and we've got a few more players, in fact, still all the way out over on the mainland. They haven't really made those rotations in, and of course, the zone just doesn't care. It's going to be absolutely relentless. It's going to keep on closing in, keep on pushing further and further onwards as we now jump into the 4th phase. And oh, military base finish. Wow.
There are barely any teams inside of this zone. This zone is so much smaller. Everybody on the outskirts, especially on that northeastern side over there, they're all going to be trying to make the same rotation inside of here. I think we're about to see at least a few teams be taken out. The question just is who and how are they going to take the fight? We can also see that your killer is Sid tried to make a play getting into here, but they're still going to find themselves knocked. The rest of his team, I'm pretty sure, are still taking blue damage.
Yeah, they're just gaining entry into the zone right now, as you can see them coming in from the western side. But what's also quite curious to note is that we still have a few teams a little bit hesitant with those rotations, even though they're out in the blue zone. You know, I would have expected the teams to start rotating in, trying to just get ahead of the blue, not necessarily push into the next phase, but just get ahead of the blue zone so they know they are secured for whatever this blue zone does, because there's now only about 35 seconds or so remaining on the clock. And they have to keep on pushing.
Ooh. Yeah, it looks like there might be a tiny bit of a hold right here. We can see the Dream Team. I mean, they were the ones that had a really high up position on top of that observatory mountain. But now Rash down here on the southern side, he's proning directly beside an enemy team, and he's on the edge of the zone. I mean, Extreme Gaming, have to come towards him. So if he doesn't get back up very shortly, I think we might see that he's going to be taken down.
Of course, we'd like to see him position himself all the way back in towards that zone, just so he's got a decent point to be fighting from, because I understand dropping down over here, there's quite a bit of cover that you could use, and, you know, still a bit of that sneak element. But this is almost tempting fate, you know, just driving so slowly with the vehicle, with the team so close to you. It's a little bit of a risky one, but fortunately now the rest of the Dream Team, they've managed to also make their way up in towards the zone. You also now see the players there from Genesis just up ahead of them, also just trying to get out of this blue zone. So things are looking pretty tough for so many of these teams.
This is definitely a difficult one. I mean, especially with that hard shift, everybody was outside of it. Military bases are already hard, and then it actually going into military base on this island, like, it's so out in the open unless you have a very few spots in those buildings. And as you can see here, because everybody's trying to play out in the open, we're seeing a lot of knocks here, including poor team Ghetto Youth. I think it's just done a Poppy left.
Yeah, and I mean they've suffered quite a few hits already in their direction. And of course also now jumping over towards Old Guard, they're also down to only one remaining player, and of course being Joey here. So I mean things are looking pretty worse for where Short also there still remaining for the Ghetto Youth team. So in fact 2 players on their side, but it's going to be interesting to see how the players are going to try and push into this next phase as it once again moves up in towards that northwestern side of the map. So things, I mean, they've secured a position over onto the military base, but now with that zone shifting up, it just adds on that extra level of complexity and making these teams just having to fight it out so much harder.
Yeah, especially, like, I love watching fights happen up here on top of these bunkers. There's just so many things that could happen. I mean, Extreme Gaming could go on ahead and take a look on over. Right now, it looks like they're making a rotation, but I mean, ATROX with Resurrection directly underneath them, they're kind of going to be stuck in there for a little bit, but you usually see a lot of interesting fights happening here, but I don't think Patriot is interested whatsoever to see what's inside of the bunker. And if he does, he's going to get a real nasty surprise with 2 people from Resurrection inside of there, and the rest of them up to the northern side that could help him out.
Yeah, and of course we also have the addition of that blue zone about to start closing in, so things are going to get pretty spicy before they get any easier. So quite a bit of a decision that needs to be made here, as we can see now. Well, Patriot getting ready to move on up. The players there from Rez already just scooting on out from that position, getting ready to push further up in towards the zone. Of course, now several of these teams have to pass by so many of the other opposing teams right here. As we've got a nice little jump coming in there from Rez, pulling up right alongside the players here from 7 Deadly Sins. Juntas also situated just a little bit further, and also a very, very interesting entry into the zone.
Oh no, both these guys playing in containers. This is so out in the open. Obviously, you don't want to have a neighbor when you're playing these because it's just completely out in the open. And because of that, 7 Deadly Sins, they might be able to go ahead and win this situation. They're actually inside of their bull. The rest of the guys are kind of just trying to hide behind the lid. And if anybody from the southern side, we can see there's a ton of people back there. If any of them decide to also push on this in this moment, that could definitely be detrimental.
But now, speaking about detrimental, Teo stepping onto the side there of the players from XTREME. Of course, finding that quick knock and confirm. Nax now being one of the last remaining players for the team. We see Spalma also now out in the blue zone. So quite a bit of distance still left to cover. And also fighting the blue zone as they try to make their way back up into zone. Of course, blue zone being what it is. Absolutely relentless. Finding the damage in towards Spalma. Quick steal coming in there on the Rambo. Stealing that easy kill. Some free pickings there for them. But of course, now we see the players moving up into the bowls that we have out here on this airfield or this runway. Just making as much of it as they can. And of course, the players here from Yokili is trying to find those hits into the side of Dream Team. So a lot of back and forth happening between these teams now.
Those nades, if they were thrown a little bit further, those would have been perfect. You can see the intentions. Unfortunately, unable to quite catch out. And yeah, this blue zone, it's 6th zone. This is really going to start hurting. They need to be chasing the zone as fast as possible. I mean, they definitely are. And if Ghetto Youth isn't careful, we can see the Tactical eSports currently in a ton of smoke. Will they be able to just take each other out is kind of what I'm wondering.
Man, it's going to be tough either way, I can tell you that. We got the players here from Yokile is also just perched up on these drums, held up in that western side of the zone. And the blue zone, or rather the next phase, moving up once again, heading further and further up in towards these northern reaches. So this is a fairly good positioning for Juntas. In terms of where the zone is. Not the best location to be fighting from, but if we look at where the zone is, where it's going to be moving to, I mean, it's a good position. Probably one of the best positions they can ask for at this time, as there's so many tough spots to choose from.
Yeah, let's just hope that they continue to have a lot of those smokes, because otherwise they're going to be completely out in the open to everybody else. I mean, they are just inside zone. It looks like a little bit of a crate drop by them too, so I bet they're going to be able to use that for a little bit of cover. But otherwise, all eyes are probably on them. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get in at this point, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of long-distance fighting at this rate as well, just trying to keep each other out of the zone. Oh my goodness, that nade though from Nox.
Man, that was just an insane one. Beautifully placed utilities coming in. But of course, now you can see the hits continue to find their way on through. 7 players now remain. 3 teams, that of course being Dream Team. It is the players from XTREME as well as Juntas. Juntas still looking fairly decent on their numbers, as is the team here from Dream Team. Both teams, of course, sitting on 3 players aside. Then looking back all the way down over towards the eastern side, we got Nax here from the XTREME team. Oh, just trying to hide away on the edge of the zone. So close to the zone, but yet so far away.
Yeah, it looks like they're able to go on ahead and spot out his feet there, so he needs to be a little bit careful, realizing that he's going to go on ahead and start popping some smokes. It looks like he is just outside zone if he's going to continue to play those silos. I bet if he gets those barrels, he's basically going to be home free, especially if he's able to get to that little tiny spot inside those barrels that neither team is going to be able to spot out. But I mean, already Dream Team, they see him, they're interested in trying to get involved, but it looks like the closest one, Lucid Stark, is going to get knocked to JUNTAS. This is just a big firefight between them.
Man, this is where things are really hitting up. Nax not being able to survive the onslaught there. We move into our final 2 teams to get into this final zone. See who's going to be the one to clutch that chicken dinner. But Damon out in the blue zone, getting hit. Down they go. And of course, with that, Dream Team step on up to the plate, claiming the chicken dinner. And 10 kills to go alongside that. Juntas, of course, coming into second place there on 4 kills.
Hunan had 7 kills there for Dream Team. That's absolutely huge for him.
Yeah, that is a really strong showing. So I really like the way that they played this final zone. Unfortunately, things didn't run too smoothly, but they were just able to find those last few hits just in the nick of time to secure themselves the chicken dinner. So fortunately for them in this situation, their placement really paid off for them. So, you know, well done, well played there. And unfortunate for JUNTAS and of course the players there from XTREME, but still a very, very good effort by them in the zone.
I do not disagree. I was also kind of hoping that Noxa was going to be able to make it to those barrels and see which team he was going to participate helping out, you know what I mean? But it does look like they were able to go ahead and find out that solo and take him out of the game before he really became a huge sway in the ending there. And I mean, luckily for JUNTAS, actually, because I mean Dream Team, because I think if he was to get to those barrels, he would have focused them.
Yeah. So it's fortunate and unfortunate all at the same time. So well done to our top 3 teams there. Of course, now we move down the rest of the standings. You can see the players there from GHETTO Youth coming into 4th place there with 1 kill. We got Resurrection over in 5th, finishing on 3. The players there from Your Killer is, of course, finishing over in 6th place on 2. Tactical in 7th with 1. We've got the African Rights team over in 8th place, also finishing with 1. Blank Legion in 9th on 3 kills. We got Genesis over in 10th on 4 kills. In fact, for all 4 of those kills being brought in there by Drex. So beautiful performance. Of course, now 7 Deadly Sins finishing over in 11th place. Also coming in with 6 kills. Really good kill count there. ATROX over in 12th place, sitting on 3. We got the players from the Old Guard over in 13th place. We got Active Gaming finishing in 14th, of course, coming in with 4 kills. We've got the players there. Then last but not least, being the team from Extra, finishing all the way up in 15th place. So a very, very tough showing for these teams. But of course, we were expecting exactly that to happen with the zone shifting down into the south. We were saying it's going to be chaotic, and that is exactly what we got.
Yeah, that was just a hard rotation for a lot of those teams, especially when it ended up hard shifting all the way to military base. There's just so much fighting over on the northeastern side that I'm not surprised that somebody else ended up being able to make a rotation to a different spot was the one that came out on top on the end.
Yeah, well, location. But of course, speaking of which, we're going to be heading up into our next game. So we're going to be jumping into a quick break just to see, just to give ourselves a bit of a rest. And from that, we'll be jumping straight on over in towards Sanhok to see what these teams are going to be bringing in our next match. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll be back in a short few minutes. So see you guys after the break. What's up, guys? Welcome back. We're getting ready to move into our second match of the evening, of course, heading over in towards Sanhok. But before we get into that, we have to look at the standings after our first match of the day. And speaking of which, here we go. All right, so as you can see, of course, the players there from Active Gaming being able to move themselves up, or rather not move themselves up, being able to retain their pole position spot there, sitting still very comfortably on 79 points. So bringing in 4 points in the previous match. But of course, it has been such a challenge for the other teams to close the gap on them, as the nearest team we saw coming into today was sitting on 49 points, that of course being on the side of Genesis, and now they've moved up to 55. Dream Team just leapfrogging up in towards second place though on 60 points. So really strong performance coming in from them in the previous game, and of course being able to sneak up into that second position.
Yeah, it looks like they're slowly trying to gain on active gaming at this point. I mean, the active gaming didn't really go up too far, so Dream Team, honestly, I mean, even though it's still almost a 20-point difference, they could go on ahead and make it even closer to them. That's kind of what I'm looking for at this point. Will active gaming be able to maintain that spot, or will somebody be coming for that rank?
Well, if they pull off another match like we just saw on the Erangel one, you know, the chances of a team catching up to them, you know, I'm referring to Dream Team, of course, you know, coming in with the 10 kills as well as the chicken dinner, that just catapulted them nicely up in towards that second place. So if we see another performance like that coming in from one of the opposing teams, that could really be something to move them up in towards that position and contend for that pole slot. But speaking of which, of course, we're moving into the map. So the map has loaded up, and we, of course, see that lovely flight path making its way on from Cow up in the north, heading right past Camp Alpha over the Chungus Mountains there. So, again, the flight path not being so essential on this map, but it's still quite interesting to see what we have with regards to that flight path.
It's still going to be a struggle to get all the way far away if your loot spot was, I don't know, Camp Charlie, Cave, Camp Pong, somewhere over there. I mean, and I don't even think people would want to go on ahead and reach over there at this point. We can assume that the zone is not going to go down in that direction. I have a feeling this might be a far west first zone, and it actually looks like everybody kind of figuring that out. They're not leaving the plane path too far, and they're kind of deciding to the majority of these guys went to the west.
I mean, it'd be quite funny if that zone shifted up into the north. That would just be an absolutely ripper of a zone to come on in. So now we just wait in anticipation to see where that zone is going to be going. But already seeing a bit of action over towards Alpha as the players there from JUNTAS start the fight in on the side of the players there from XTREME Gaming. So a fairly tough start once again, but it's also a little bit of deja vu to what we saw yesterday with two teams also dropping down right there. And oh, there we go. The zone shifting in towards that northeastern side. Fortunately, not an aggressive shift.
Wow. I mean, choosing to go on ahead and pop over there, nobody decided to really drop up on that northeastern side. So that means everybody is still going to be having to make a move over there. Really, Resurrection, they seem to be in a really good spot right there in the center, right around Quarry, the north end of Quarry. Everybody else, though, they're going to have to try and use these very few bridges to be making their own way across. I think everybody on the southern side will probably do well by staying on the southern side and making rotation. And the same thing with the far northwest. They should try and stick to the far north as possible as well.
Yeah, and we of course see the players there from Active was taking a very similar drop spot to what we saw them coming in from or coming in with yesterday. But now we see Painan also heating up a little bit as we got the players there from GHETTO Youth as well as the team from version 3 battling it out on either side of this river. Several hits, in fact, making their way across over towards them. But Black Legion also right here among them. It was so difficult to spot this different color in the mix here. But here we go. Black Legion now stepping up, already sitting on 1 kill and now continuing to apply the pressure onto the side here of GHETTO.
Oh, did he spot his feet right there? No, I don't think so. Oh, that was a sneak and a half short there. He was proned out, waiting underneath that window, and right when he jumped through, that was just an ambush by 2 other members. Oh, is somebody else about to do the same thing? It does look like Teo tried to go for a little bit of a different angle, but of course, he's also going to be spotted out. This is just complete chaos as BL is just trying to go and push into this building.
Yeah, I mean, Black Legion really put on quite a bit of a back foot as GHETTO. Oh, just apply the pressure and a quick sneak attack from Sleek off the side. Beautiful third party coming in there. But of course, now the fight still just continuing on between the players now from version 3 and the team there from GHETTO. The numbers starting to dwindle as short is the last survivor for the time being, unless, of course, can pull off that rest. But it seems like the players from version 3 are starting to disengage from that position, just falling back, and I think that's actually pretty good for GHETTO.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm surprised they did that. I wonder if they didn't 100% pay attention to that kill feed. Because if they realized there was only 1 person left, I feel like they all would have been pretty aggressive on that stance. But instead, pulling off of this, that's going to give obviously the opportunity to get all the res. And they might just continue that fight unless Vision Theater just deciding to make a rotation away of some sort. We can also see on that northern side, it looks like another team is a little bit curious to see what's happening over here. You can see that Active Gaming is kind of looming in the distance. It looks like they always try to go and capitalize on an opportunity they see.
And that's of course pretty evident on the Sanhok map is once the teams hear those gunshots off in the distance, they get drawn like moths to a flame. Like, oh, I want to get in. I want to get in. I want to get into the action. I want to see what's happening and maybe even sneak in a third party or two. But I mean, now we move down over towards the players here from Extra. They've taken up this position just north of the players there from Tactical. You can, of course, see the players there from Tactical now trying to find their way on in, but some beautiful shooting coming in here from Extra right onto the side there of Wizard.
Well, here we go. It looks like they're trying to make a nice rotation around this. As long as you can go on ahead and try to surround this position, they would be able to hold them out here. It looks like if he's not careful, I mean, you see that one of the members of Tactical Esports is kind of in a position to maybe be able to sneak up on these guys, and he might have to if the rest of his team is hoping to go on ahead and get somewhere different.
And Sherlock now also getting knocked out in the process. So the players here from Tactical now being reduced down to only 2. We got Gunny and Gyrobot, the 2 hopefuls. So let's see whether or not they'll be able to make a stand against the players here from Extra, as both these teams are sitting down over towards the southern portion of the zone. So they do have a little bit of distance to cover to make it all the way back. So they could kind of, in a way, still afford to take this fight as it's only the first phase. But now the rest of the team there from Tactical actually getting caught out in the red zone.
Uh-oh. That's definitely not something that you want to find yourself in. How does that luck happen to you? So you're already being held out, and then of course the red zone goes on ahead and appears right above you. That's going to make you stop in your tracks. If you're not going to take, red zone damage, you're going to be taking blue zone damage because here's it comes, and it'll be interesting to see. Do you think that Extra Esports are going to continue to stay here with their holdout, or are they going to prioritize now getting into this first zone?
Well, from what we've seen from the teams in past, I would not be surprised if they decide to stay here because they seem quite eager to gain those additional points. But of course, at what cost? you know, this is Sanhok. You can't afford to stay in the blue for too long, regardless of the phase that it's in, as the zone is so tiny, but there's still so much distance to cover, and teams sometimes get distracted by that.
Yeah, it seems like they are definitely 100% committing to this, which is quite interesting. I mean, Sanhok has the huge opportunity, you know, to make it so that the zone can go so far away, and then you're just stuck running and running and running in blue, and Sanhok does not have as many vehicles as these other maps. They could potentially be digging themselves in a little bit of a hole here, but I mean, I guess to them, as long as they get these few kills, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, it's going to be, I don't know. We'll see whether or not it's going to be worth the effort, you know, to hang around in this blue. But of course, in pure Sanhok fashion, that zone moves up very abruptly. So if you don't pay too much attention to the zone, you know, before you know, you are caught out all the way on the far side of the blue zone in the late phases. And it then makes it so difficult to, you know, regain that positioning within the zone.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, it looks like Duffy is now making a little bit of a move. Sherlock, we can see here, is just trying to make a huge rotation away, but it's really just down to him and his other teammate, Bot there. They're trying to spot out the members of Extra Esports, but it seems like at this point they decided that they no longer want a part of this.
Yeah, but of course, it is one of those... one of those inevitable positions to be in. The blue zone, of course, being in the zone, we know is going to be absolutely relentless. It's not going to care about where you are positioned. If it wants to move, it shall do exactly that. But now, of course, we move back up in towards the zone itself. We can see the players here from Your Killer is just making entry into zone, coming in on the western side there of Quarry. But we see also the players from ATROX positioned in Quarry itself. That is a very interesting position to be in, as it's sometimes quite difficult to get out of.
Yeah, Quarry is obviously a big bowl, and even all the compounds around them, right? All the compounds, especially over there on the eastern side, that is just a huge amount of mountains and such. It's so hard to spot anybody else out in that situation. There's so many small little ridges, obviously very tall grass. I mean, luckily for them right now, it seems pretty empty, and they can try and use that as just a way to make that rotation. And it looks like, yeah, it looks like they don't want to be there whatsoever. It's just as they go further into the zone, they have to be careful because they're slowly starting to encroach on potentially Resurrection's spot. And it'll be interesting to see where this next zone goes, honestly, because if he continues to shift up to that northeastern side, still nobody is occupying that.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what that zone's going to be doing, but now also we see the players from version 3 pulling up right in behind the players here from ATROX. Finds a quick shot in towards Yaya, gets to confirm on that hit as well. And now we see the rest of the squad turning around, trying to avenge a teammate, returning a little bit of fire onto the side there of version 3 as they come on in. We see the Lucid Stark also just falling off of a height, either getting flung out of the vehicle or sliding off of a mountain somewhere, somehow. So that is also something that you sometimes see coming in on the Sanhok map. It doesn't happen too often, though.
No, it does not. Oh. For a second there, I thought he went on ahead and made a big loop around, unable to really figure out where he wants to go. And his teammate actually is caught. Oh no, Enigma. It looks like he's going to go for the res. I mean, Team version 3, though, it seems like at this point they would want to start making this hard push up here on top of him. And it looks like as well, ooh, Pooji there is going to go on ahead and be able to pick him off. That means Enigma is just putting away his guns. He needs to start booking it away from this position. Hopefully he can find a place to hide without anybody else spotting him out, especially Resurrection directly to his north.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough one. And, you know, we got that zone... well, not the zone, rather, the players just nipping at his heels as well. So just feeling that adrenaline coming in because they need to try and get ahead. But of course, now moving over in towards Painan, we see the players from Ghetto just pulling in here alongside what is left of the extra team. Of course, there's 3 of them just scattered throughout, but once again, these teams are still caught out in the blue zone, and that blue zone is moving up regardless of where they are. It's fortunate to see the players there from Tactical at least being able to get ahead of the blue zone and continue to push a little bit further. Well, they're almost there. Almost there.
Almost. These teams, they've been down, just stuck in here for this entire time. I'm honestly still surprised that they're still fighting in Pinon at this point. I mean, we even saw a red zone. There was a red zone that went on ahead and tried to go on ahead and explode everybody down in here. And it seems like everybody just wants to stay. Everybody just kind of waiting at this rate for everybody else to be leaving. And the next zone is also going to pop. And again, what surprise, surprise, it's nowhere near them. Went ahead and popped even further up to the northern side of our pass zone.
Yeah, I mean, and that is the beast that Sanhok is. You know, it's just a relentless one, and if you can't catch up to the blue zone, it just becomes so much harder in the following phases. But now, of course, we see the players here from Active positioned up on the mound. Few teams in the vicinity. We got African Rise sitting over towards the west of their position. A few more also trying to squeeze on in. 7 Deadly Sins actually not making their way in the direction of the drop, but we got Paradise in smack dab center zone. A really difficult position to fight in, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the zone is going to stay there.
Yeah, from here, I mean, still everybody's going to be trying to fight in on the very southern side. On the northern side, whoever's up there should be, you know, going ahead and chilling out. I want to see a Paradise ending, I think. I don't think I've quite seen one in a while. So if it does continue to pull up there, I am be very interested to see what exactly happens. But meanwhile, I mean, everybody on the south that are still trying to come on in, we're going to see a lot of action happening down there. And like I said before, I'm still surprised that people are trying to do so inside of Blue Zone. Oh, a nice shot coming in from one of the members of Active Team in here.
Oh. I mean, Genocide getting a nice shot in, but of course, instant karma coming in return, finding the knock straight on towards him, and of course, getting immediately sent back into the lobby. Now we see the teams all still trying to push further in from the south here. We got Tactical managing to finally get ahead of that blue zone at a very, very high cost, but now we have the players from Your Killer Is positioned just within the zone, setting up a bit of an ambush, waiting there for them. Man, it's going to be a pretty tough entry point for them if they continue straight forward from here.
Yeah, we can see all the little triangles also coming in from Your Killer Is. They're all interested to see who is over here trying to spawn them out right now. And I mean, Tactical Esports, they're just trying to play as safely as possible. Oh, there we go. Instantly trying to go for a little bit of a disengage. We might be seeing a huge wraparound come out from him. I wonder if he's going to be able to make it. If he does, he needs to be a tiny bit careful because you can see that there's still a bunch of other people around him. Oh, he looked right back at them. He knows that there might be more people coming in right behind.
Yeah, the spidey sense is just tingling as you can feel the presence of the players behind you, but also the blue zone now catching up with them as well. I mean, the players here from Extra are actually in a fairly decent positioning in comparison to where Tactical is, but fortunately Tactical Gyrobot is able to make the most of that positioning. Now quickly just trying to improve, trying to move up behind some hard cover, but of course the shots relentlessly flying in, and Sherlock now stepping up into the fight, but that of course is drawing in the attention from Ghetto Youth as well as the players there from Your Killer Is.
Yeah, Your Killer Is. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to stay on the very edge of the zone for a little bit longer to see if they can go ahead and take out some of these teams that are clearly stuck outside of blue. At least to get, you know, a few more points before they decide to go and make the move into the next zone. It seems like that's definitely what they're trying to commit to, but everybody else, obviously realizing the situation they've been put into, are still trying to make a rotation around to get an entry in. But the longer they stay out there, obviously the more damage they're taking, the less meds that they have. And I have a feeling that they're going to be in big trouble very shortly. At least if they're using all their meds now, obviously, when they get into zone, they actually get in a fight, they're not going to have anything else to be able to use.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very, very costly one. And of course, we can see that now being pretty evident on the side there of Tactical, as we see Gyrobot now just getting sent on off for now. I mean, the players here from Ghetto managing it to partially get ahead of the blue zone, but the blue zone still pushing forward as the fourth phase blue zone now kicks on in. Your Killer Is now also getting ready to move a little bit further up, but a heavily congested south that we've got with so many teams all just trying to find a decent position within the next phase.
Yep, and in this next phase, it still looks like some teams are in a little bit of a hard situation. Even Active Gaming, I mean, they're on the very southern side. It looks like there's a team directly to their north, and they're having to smoke off all their other angles. It's at this point where a lot of these teams should have nice sightlines onto each other, so they have to go and play this terrain as best as possible. And if they start hearing that fighting, it looks like they might want to try and run and capitalize off that. Ooh, just as Sleek from version 3 take 2 people out from that vehicle.
Yeah, some really nice showings coming in here from the teams as everyone now tries to grab a slice of that pie. You can see the players here from Your Killer is now trying to push in from the south of Active Gaming. They've really been able to get that knock in towards Cloud. But of course, 2 players still remain up ahead with the addition of the players here from version 3. Also just holding up on the side. So yet again, it's going to be a very difficult entry point for these teams.
Yep, and even poor Active Gaming, they've been trying to figure out what they can really do down there, and it looks like they're slowly starting to get knocked out. I mean, Your Killer is, they've been managing to keep all 4 members up, and some of these other teams inside the zone, they have lost a few members, so potentially they could go ahead and run on and surprise the people just inside zone and start rolling them. There we go, even more knocks coming in from Your Killer is towards Active Gaming.
With that, of course, Active Gaming now being reduced to only 1. You can see Not Cloud trying to get that angle on Sid and the rest of the players there from Your Killer is. Oh, nicely done. Beautiful spray. Gets a double whammy in the process. Hasbot now trying to move on in, trying to get that res in, but the shots are still continuing to fly. Down goes Hasbot as well. Beautiful play coming in here from Not Cloud. Beautiful show of aggression, and so far a really beneficial push, just paying off some beautiful kills, finding their way on through. Version 3 also not looking too great for Wear, just up ahead, trying to hold up as much as they can. But what a show that was coming in there from Active Gaming.
Yeah. Wow, I thought Your Killers, I thought that they were in the perfect position. I mean, obviously nobody wants to be on the southern side. You're having to be forced to push into zone. That's so much damage that could potentially be taken. It's just fight after fight, no resetting allowed. And I was impressed that they kept all 4 people up, but at that point, they were just all went on ahead and got wiped. And now, as we can already see, it's just a bunch of broken teams here on the southern side now trying to push in with a bunch of teams that have been fine this entire time inside of Paradise. They're going to be able to just clean this all up.
I mean, here we go now. The players here from Extreme rather, finding their heads in to the side there of version 3. Down they go. But of course, now things really starting to heat up back in the north as well. As we can see, JUNTAS, Dream Team, and the Old Guard now stepping in to the fight. A few mollies now getting sent on over there from JUNTAS, trying to find the damage onto the side there of Badman. But Dream Team not taking the engagement. They're just hanging around waiting for this fight. Oh, to be quite costly, and it is in fact what happens as we see the players there now just getting sent on off. But Lixon just waiting on the side now, getting caught in the blue zone a little bit too late. Down they go. Beautiful performance there as these teams just find those angles. But of course, we see a few knocks still remaining on the Junta side. We are now down to only 6 teams. We are still in Paradise. 7 Deadly Sins taking up some decent positioning within Paradise itself.
Yeah, it does look like our next zone is just outside Paradise. It makes me a tiny bit sad. You know, I kind of wanted one of those entire Paradise endings. I mean, just a tiny bit inside now, and it looks like you already mentioned, 7 Deadly Sins is in there. And it looks like Resurrection. They've been hanging out inside Paradise this entire time too, and they kind of both want to be playing the same locations. So we might be seeing a fight between them very shortly, unless 7 Deadly Sins decide to just stay in that building for a very long time. Meanwhile, we can already see that the fighting is popping off with Team 9 Extreme Gaming starting to toss over a ton of util in their direction.
Ooh, the hits now also finding their way on through there on the side of 7 Deadly Sins, straight up in towards Junta. So you can see perched up on those rocks just over towards that western side. But of course, the players here from Extreme now applying a little bit of pressure onto the side here of Rez, trying to get that opening. Active Gaming still alive, still in the mix, just holding onto that southern edge of the zone.
I cannot believe that they were able to go on ahead and make it in here at this point. I thought for sure the Active Gaming, they were being held out and pinched by everything. And still somehow, I mean, we saw how Not Cloud was being able to play that earlier. It seems like he's a survivor. And he's going to try to bring it on in, but unfortunately it looks like he was, in fact, spotted out. In the zone, of course, is going to get even smaller, and nobody's inside this new zone. And there's barely anything to really play.
I mean, there's nothing on the side of terrain for these teams really to make much use of. Now heading just away from all these compounds, pushing straight on out into the open. See the players there now from 7 Deadly Sins still sitting on all 4 of them alive in this game. Now they're getting ready to push a little bit further forward. Rez also just hanging on for dear life. We see Nax starting to try and out-heal the blue zone. But this is blue zone. It is relentless. It's going to take quite a bit of effort to accomplish that. But here we go. The final 4 teams. African Rise also now just feeling the sting as the damage finds its way on towards them.
Yeah, looks like it's just down to 1 left, and a big fight over on the northern side finally popped off. These 2 teams that have been trying to play inside Paradise have finally run into each other, and it looks like at a huge cost. What is this, a 1v1 potentially? No, there's still 2 members up from Resurrection still. 1 only from 7 Deadly Sins. It looks like that wraparound coming in from Resurrection ended up working in their favor, but still there's 1 person alive, and he's trying to find a place to play inside here without taking a lot of fire.
Man, it is such a challenging zone, such a risky play, regardless of what these teams decide to do. So we see a 1v1v2 as we move into our 8th phase. That, of course, being African Rise, 7 Deadly Sins, as well as Rescue. But, I mean, 7 Deadly Sins, M4, they're taking a little bit of damage. We see those nades also now getting sent on over here from Morgan on the rest side. Just finding a little bit of damage in towards 6-9. But, of course, I mean, that zone just looking absolutely brutal. Still waiting to see whether or not 7 Deadly Sins will be able to make it into the zone. Not a lot of space really to work with here. 4 players still left to fight it out for that chicken dinner.
They're all playing this exactly how they need to be, honestly, at this point. Both of these solos, they want to try and stay alive for that 2nd placement points. So they're just going to be proning out, trying to just crawl their way on in. And meanwhile, the people on the southern side, the only duo inside of this game, they're also trying to play this as cautiously as possible, but they're probably going to be the ones that are the aggressors. First, they need to find where everybody else is. And actually, surprisingly, okay, I was going to say, I thought 7 Deadly Sins, they could go on ahead and start making a little bit of a run through, but it looks like M4, he's going to be taking a ton of blue damage before he's finally able to make it on in. And that means that if they decide to push now, only 1 bullet would take him out.
And that is exactly
what happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Down they go. Now it is 6-9 from African Rise up against the 2 remaining players coming in there from Rez. You can see we've got Jigsaw just up ahead, 6-9. Now just fishing for those hit markers, trying to establish where Rez is. So we got Jigsaw and Morgan up against 6-9. We see those mollies now starting to make their way on in. Oh, 6-9 gets up, makes a quick dash for it. But Jigsaw just seals the deal, claims the chicken dinner, and with that, of course, Rez finishing off on 7 kills.
That was very nicely played by them. I mean, I was a little bit worried that they were going to go on ahead and run to the other team inside of Paradise there and potentially be wiped, but they ended up kind of sending only a few of them out there, and because of that, they were able to completely decimate that team from really being a threat, while the other 2 were able to make an even safer rotation away. So I think that was really well played by them in the end. It's just nice that they were able to keep 2 up and then versus 2 other solos.
Yeah, really paying off with that, with those players in those late few phases. And of course, the players there from African Rise also still putting up a very valiant effort, coming in to that 2nd position, finishing off on 5 kills. We got the players there from the 7 Deadly Sins also then coming into 3rd place, finishing with 6 kills. So a nice amount of kills coming in with these top 3 teams, 7, 5, and 6. Fairly decent. But of course, as we make our way through the rest of the standings, we got the players there from Extreme finishing over in 4th place with 3 kills. Juntas coming into 5th place on 6 kills. We got Active Gaming finishing over in 6th place on 3. We got GHETTO Youth finishing in 7th place on 5 kills. Dream Team over in 8th. The players from the Old Guard over in 9th place on 2. We got version 3 finishing with 7 kills over in 10th place. I think that is, yeah, that is tied right there with the players from Res. Really, really good showing coming in from them, regardless of where they got sent back. We got ATROX, of course, coming in 11th place. They were on 1. Your Killer is finishing over in 12th place on 4 kills. We got the players from Extra over in 13th with 3 kills. We got Tactical in 14th on 1. Genesis in 15th. And then, of course, Blank Legion, the first team back into the lobby. Fortunately, being able to still find that 1 kill along the way. So fairly tough match that we had on Sanhok. But, of course, we were expecting to see a tough zone. You know, and that is exactly what we got. So really pleased with how this match kind of went. In fact, it was quite the trying position. Unfortunately, it didn't finish exactly in paradise, but it was pretty close to paradise nonetheless.
It was. Honestly a little bit more interesting terrain at that point. Everybody had to go ahead and prone out. There's that weird rock that they kind of could hide around as well. So I think that was an interesting location to go ahead and end off on Sanhok.
Yeah, so of course now we look forward to be moving up in towards our final match of the day, which is going to be over on towards Miramar. So quite excited to get onto that. We had a few interesting plays there yesterday as well. So keen to see what the teams are going to be doing. But of course, on that note, we're going to be jumping into a quick break. We'll be seeing you guys back in a short few minutes. What's up, guys? Welcome back. All right, so here we are, final match of day 2 about to come our way, and of course we're going to be heading into those lovely sandy dunes on the Miramar map. But once again, before we get into that, we need to get we need to have a bit of a look. Wow, I don't know what I'm saying today. We need to have a look at what the standings are.
You need the update.
Yeah.
Wow. So it looks like Active Gaming going to be able to pull further away again, this time from Dream Team. So it does seem like they're going to be able to continue to hold their lead. I mean, last time we were kind of questioning, it was kind of closing, but this time they were able to go on ahead and bring that distance back. Mm-hmm. Send ourselves into Miramar. I'm pretty excited for it personally. Miramar is definitely different kinds of gameplay going on there. And I mean, what's your favorite thing? What are you looking for now that we're moving on to our last map?
Well, it's going to be interesting. So firstly, because the game is glitching out quite a bit, so we can't really see too much just yet, you know. A bit of an alternative approach to the game, but I can kind of figure out that the flight path is coming in from La Cabrera and heading down into what seems to be the rough estimate direction there of Puerto, all the way down over in towards that south eastern side. So you ask, what is my favorite part about the Miramar map?
Yes.
I would say the ability to sneak around the map, which you can't really do as much on Sanhok and Erangel, seeing that you've got all these ridge lines and valleys and some of these heavily mountainous regions. You know, that ability to move around and sneak up behind your opponents, which I find is much more possible on this map in comparison to the other two that we've been seeing. So that is one thing that I like. And you, what do you like about the Miramar map?
I mean, kind of similar thing. I mean, I really like the different kinds of terrain. There are so many ridges. There's so much ability for teams to really be playing directly on top of each other and without them completely knowing, like not even knowing of each other's existence. And then of course, everybody likes this map because of it gives everybody the opportunity to be seeing and shooting further, and that's always something I swear everybody enjoys. But it does look like this first plane path was very far over to the west, and it looks like our first zone is also going to pop over on the west. I'm kind of interested. I wonder if this is going to go on ahead and end in some of those compounds beside Picado.
That could be quite interesting if the zone continues in that direction. But of course we also have a few teams dropping fairly close together. As you can see already, the fights starting to break out in the kill feed. So we got the players from JUNTAS already getting involved in a bit of a hustle, a bit of a tussle. I'm trying to figure out where exactly that is, because we got the players from ATROX and 7 Deadly Sins positioned over in towards Picado. Oh, that was all the way up over towards water treatment. All right, I get it. But then also looking at down over towards Chumacera, we got the players here from Extra, as well as the team from, I believe that was Active. No, sorry, that is so we got Extra and Extreme right here alongside each other. Yeah, I mean, there's no point for confusion anymore. Here are both of these teams just getting ready, and Ice now quickly just hopping in the vehicle. So some interesting drop locations we see coming in from these teams here.
Yeah, and it looks like Duffy, they're pretty upset that their spot was kind of being shared here, trying to aggressively push onto ice, but luckily they were able to go and grab that vehicle and drive away, but now this building is in fact Duffy's. Yeah, it does look like Extra was trying to push onto Extreme, wanting to make them go away, and I mean, when hot drops like this happen, if they're kind of in the same territory, kind of have to make that decision. Are we going to go on ahead and be super aggressive onto this push hard, or are we going to try and like hide and wait? Oh, but it seems like Duffy was trying to run over to these apartments, and it sounds like he heard Spamma inside.
This is weird. I mean, well, unless he's got supersonic hearing. I think they probably just heard some sounds, possibly, because it looked like they were quite close together. But of course, now as we move up, we see there's a little bit of a gap between Duffy and Spamma there. But I mean, the rest of the squad also not breaking away completely. They're still just hanging around, and of course they are one man down already. So it's going to be interesting to see how the players here from Extreme are going to fare against the full squad still on the side there of Extra.
Yeah, Extreme kind of taking the more quiet approach. Oh, nice. Spamma deciding to be one with the bush, at least for now. It seems like Extra is just full-heartedly just trying to push on this, while Extreme, they're kind of trying to back away. They're a little bit more split. Spamma is actually on the very southern side of this road, completely separated from the other two teammates in those buildings. You can see just up to the northern side. And it looks like Extra now, they're kind of together. They're kind of clearing stuff pretty close together.
Cam's of course just holding that higher ground advantage there. But I mean, looking at the rest of the map, it's a fairly quiet map for the time being, but that is kind of expected, you know, on Miramar. The first initial phase usually a little bit more of a quiet approach. As we make our way through, then things, you know, gradually start building as we progress on through the phases. So it's nice to have this potential for some early game action, as we are only 5 minutes in. And I mean, I'm curious to see how this fight's going to go between Extra and Extreme.
Yeah, I mean, Extra being a little bit more aggressive, Extreme being a little bit more cautious. Right now, it's kind of turned to a standstill. I think Extra, since they couldn't find any members of Extreme just yet, they're kind of slowing down, being like, okay, where did everybody go? But we can see that Extreme on the northern side, one of them actually went ahead and jumped in the vehicle. That should be somewhat of an audible cue. But the rest of Extra, you can see that they're trying to spot each other out. There you go, a little bit of bullets being sprayed towards that vehicle. And will that be the bait that Spamma needs to take some shots towards Duffy and Sass here? It looks like he's still... Yes, it is! Getting a knock into Duffy there with that ump.
Yeah, I mean, that was a beautiful reaction coming in from Spamma, finding those heads. Unfortunately, not getting the head in towards Sass, but either way, still a pretty good attempt. Nonetheless, we see the players there from 7 Deadly Sins, of course, now over in towards Picardo, just exchanging a few shots with the players there from ATROX. But now, we finally have the engagement coming in between Extra and Extreme. Spamma moving up. Duffy, of course, now getting raised up in the process. We see Trippy Main also now just venturing a little bit further forward, trying to see if they can find that angle in on towards Spamma. But I'm liking the way that the players here from Extreme have actually spread out through this region.
I mean, they're making sure that at every point there's somebody there. I like that they've been keeping somebody up on top of the rocks to provide some sort of over cover fire. I'm sure that ice up there is also helping out a lot by telling everybody exactly where everybody's making these movements, being, you know, the little bit of the eye in the sky.
Especially with the over cover. I mean, that is like next level. You get over cover, you know, and a bit of an overwatch, but when you get the over cover, that is like, you got to know, that is like extreme. Yeah, that's just way up there. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this is gonna go for Spamma, as we got 2 players there now from Extra starting to push on up. We got Sass and Go still hanging on. Ooh, Spamma now with the hits into towards Trippy Main there.
That angle, I will have to say. Being able to crouch on that tiny little roof, you will be able to catch out one person directly underneath him. And oh, it looks like they found him as he was trying to get the revive. Spamma does not want to let that happen, and it looks like he's going to be successfully stopping that. Now he has 2 knocks in front of him. This is not looking good at all for Extra Esports.
I mean, Sass now also getting knocked out in the process. Duffy now being the last remaining hopeful for the team. What a beautiful turnaround that is coming in from the side of the players here from Extreme. Up comes Ace, turning around just in front of Duffy, of course, getting knocked out in the process. But we also see that fight still continuing between 7 Deadly Sins and the players there from ATROX. But let's see, will Duffy be able to make it out of this one live? There's 2 players still remaining on the side of Extra, and Duffy now attempting to get that res in. This is where I would have liked to see the players from Extreme start pushing in, applying that pressure in towards them. But of course, also taking into consideration that they're not 100% sure exactly where the players from Extra is.
Yeah, I'm surprised the other member of Extreme is still up on top of Chuma there. We can see them grabbing the vehicle and making a move now. Might have been a tiny bit too late. They ended up getting the rest, so it's now going to be a 2v2 for a while. And meanwhile, so much other stuff has happened inside of this zone while we were watching this fight. Everybody has now joined us inside of here, just waiting for this next zone to close, which should be quite soon. So hopefully by then they're going to go on ahead and wrap this up, because there's huge potential that they can't stay here anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing those repositionings coming in there from the players of Extra, or rather Extreme, moving up on towards that higher ground position. But now we also see the players from Juntas and the African Rice team positioned all the way up in towards that northeastern side. I'm curious to see where this next phase is going to be going. We've got a few rotations, of course, now coming in over on towards that eastern side. The players there from Rez, of course, now moving through Los Leones with that zone now shifting and just centering up fairly nicely within the zone.
Yeah, that is a really nice center. I mean, there is a lot of teams that are actually outside of this zone, but they should be able to go and find something really nicely to play here. And it looks like everybody else grabbing their vehicles, wanting to grab that center before anybody else. One of these teams might get a little bit of a presence, because smack dab in the center, if they go grab that compound, is actually a little bit of a crate. Meanwhile, as we can see here, your killer is trying to make a rotation, kind of contesting with that other pink team directly beside them. Who's going to reach their destination first?
I don't know, it's going to be a race to that point. There's, of course, now the other pink team being the players there from Tactical. That is their alternate name. If it's not Tactical, it's the other pink team. Then we know exactly who that is. But, yeah, we see a few shots already finding its way up in towards Sid now. I mean, Sid just managing to move in quickly. A lot of a convergence now starting to happen as the teams all get ready to rush in towards that more centralized portion of the zone.
Yeah, and 7 Deadly Sins, actually, if you take a look, it does look like one of them is going to be able to find that compound that has that resin, that piece of candy, that crate, really, I should say, while the rest of them are still coming from Picado, so they're doing a tiny bit of a split over there. And, I mean, I'm interested to see if they're going to continue to hold that, or if it's just like a 2-2 split kind of thing, or if they're just momentarily making a move. It does look like they're already in a vehicle and moving away, though.
Yeah, I can see King and Blue now just trying to regroup back up in towards Picado. But now for this time around, we see the players actually there from Active moving up onto the top of the ridge line here. I mean, once again, we see the teams moving onto these cliff sides. Yesterday, it was a fairly tough positioning for them to make their way on through. But now, maybe, you know, second time around, we might have a bit of a more interesting showing coming in from these teams. As we can see, the players here from Juntas and the players there from Active Gaming, both now just moving into the area here. A few more teams also still just positioned a little bit further down towards the south. So, where do you expect the next wave of insanity to be coming from?
Well, I will say it looks like our fighting inside Chumacera is still active. There's so many teams over on the south, like you mentioned, and actually on the east as well. Depending on where this next zone shifts, I wouldn't be surprised if all those teams that are playing the edge have to go and make it crash on something.
Sorry, I'm laughing. Someone just said in chat, you sound like my sister.
How?
I don't know. I don't even know if they know what my sister sounds like, but okay, let's go with that one. All right, now jumping over in towards Ted Bundy over here. You can see those shots now flying up in towards Bumblebee. We got Pikachu and the remainder of the players here from Juntas. Oh, sending up some nades up atop right there on it to the side of Active. Rain now just trying to push on in and succeeds in doing exactly that. But it's going to be a pretty tough one now for Vigas to be able to make some point of return fire from that, as it's a pretty open position and a full squad now just improving their position and potential hold onto the cliffs here.
Yep, here on top of the cliffs, they can be so extreme, dynamic, really. I can also say with these fights. Oh, here we go. Some nades now coming in from Active as well. This is what I want to see. I want to see the nades be tossing them on in there. All of Juntas are directly on top of each other. Oh, but it looks like they're unable to. All 4 of them are now back up, and it looks like they're just going to be able to catch off Vigas there all by himself. The nades are too late.
Man. Like we've seen some good plays coming in from NotCloud as well over on that first game that we had of the day, but I was hoping to see a continuation on that. Oh, NotCloud now finding that damage though in towards Bumblebee with that late molly that got sent on over in towards them. But an interesting position though coming in here for NotCloud's teammate. We can see Genocide all the way on the far side here, perched all the way at the top of the rock. This is an interesting. I don't even know how they got. Oh, they used the truck. Because I don't recall. Seeing, I don't really recall seeing anyone being able to run up that height. So yeah, kudos for putting that one off.
I'm used to it having to be a bike that's required to get up here. It drives basically vertically up the rocks, but it does look like I'm probably being able to do the same things with the car. And it looks like now, though, they're deciding to go and pull off of this. He doesn't want to stay up here for too long, especially if he gets caught out. And if we took a little bit of a glimpse towards, it's like an overturned beetle. There's no chance of getting that back. If we took a glance at this next quickly, and it looks like it went on ahead and hard shifted up to the northwest. So all of Active, they're definitely not inside of it, though they're close. They could go on ahead and capitalize off of this really close position before everybody else, as we can see already in their vehicles and sending it get there.
Yeah, looks like a great migration once again now starting to make its way through. But over in Chumacera, we still have the 2 teams. We still have the players here from Extra and Extreme. They are still holding on.
They still want to play the game, but it does look like it's a little bit different. Now it's officially desk down to Duffy. I mean, it was a 2v2, but it looks like Extra ended up losing another member. No more extras people to spare, you know? And now that means that Extreme Gaming can just get out of there. I mean, right when you kind of lose track of where the solo is, there's no real point in continuing to pursue, because that could be that could be detrimental. That could take you entirely out. So they're just going to go on ahead and leave, prioritize getting into this next zone.
Yeah, especially with it being on Miramar, you know, we've seen these solos just come out of what seems to be nowhere, you know, just pulling themselves out of the woodwork, finding those hits and causing quite a bit of a disruption to any of the opposing teams. But of course now things are starting to eventually heat up in the zone as the teams are getting closer and closer together. We still have 15 teams remaining, a few of which of course we see still on the way in towards the zone. But the south now once again starting to pile up with players and teams.
Yeah, it's getting much, much too small for everybody to be able to survive here. And I mean, everybody is still making their rotations too, so I'm interested to see if they're going to end up crashing or running into each other now as they're slowly trying to make their way in still. Because the entire other side of the zone is still completely open. Meanwhile, they're just getting inside zone and instantly grabbing the first compound that they see is open. So that means everybody else that's trying to make the rotation in as well are going to be being shot at a lot by these teams that are already decided to set up. One of them being poor Lucian Stark there. His vehicle now exploding down to very low HP. He has to actually stop and heal. I think he's kind of stuck there unless one of his teammates are able to retrieve him.
Now, fortunately for Lucid, the rest of the team has just also pulled up in towards the region, but still so many opposing players remain in the vicinity. Lucid Stark managing to get that heal in, but the hits now just coming in from Tactical right there on that offside. Your Killer is also situated right there around them. So from what I can see, there's about 6 teams situated right here in the south, with that zone now once again moving a little bit further in towards the north.
once again, we're going to start seeing a big car migration. And even more so. So last time there's a huge car migration, some of these guys ended up running into each other because of the close proximity. But now that our zones are even smaller, the same thing's going to happen, but even at a higher rate. All these guys should be next to each other. I'm actually surprised by how many people are directly by each other, and they're not really doing anything about it.
Yeah, they all got that survival mode engaged, just trying to outlast as long as they can, just trying to survive in the zone for as long as, well, gamely possible. I almost said humanly possible, but I realized that's not a thing in this game. But either way, here we are now, jumping onto the side here of the players from Genesis, who's starting to take aim onto the side there of JUNTAS. A few hits now, starting to light up the kill feed, as so many teams are still getting stuck on the edge of the zone, not really being able to find a decent way in. And with that, of course, we see Rambo there from Blank Legion getting sent on off. And now Healer, the last remaining player here for Blank Legion, still just holding up on the side of Old Guard. But also, we still see Dream Team just slightly up ahead of them.
Yeah, this is a harsh situation. I don't even know. We can see that there's a little bit of a buggy there, but Healer not going for it. If he tried to go and start driving away, I mean, the other team Old Guards would be able to spot him out immediately, but he needs to do something. Oh, there we go. That zone is moving so fast because it's phase 4. He's about to be taking a lot of damage too, and it looks like they might actually go on ahead and collide a little bit. Oh! Looks like he jumped out of his vehicle to try and shoot at them, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to catch anybody just yet. And Old Guards are actually going to be rotating directly beside Tactical eSports as well. So everybody is kind of holding each other out in this situation.
It is. This is a bit of a feels bad situation. We got so many teams all now having a very similar idea, all trying to push further up in towards the zone. Once again, we see a lot of players. What the? All right, that is a new one. Pappy now just flying quite all over the place on this one. That was really odd.
And that's it.
Yeah, I think it was that Aladdin's magic carpet that just came into play all the way on the Miramar map. But I mean, now we move on over. 13 teams remain, 37 players still alive. And this is going to be an absolutely jam-packed zone. So many players all shoulder to shoulder, just trying to squeeze on up in towards the zone.
Ooh, nice shots onto that. If at least he wasn't able to catch him out, he probably would have exploded that vehicle. Oh, but instantly he's gonna get traded because all these teams now crashing onto these hay bales is their only kind of place to play. And it looks like that is going to be actually the end of JUNTAS. They're trying to play inside those fields, but there's too many people to take them out. I mean, it's in a situation like this where if you're not in a good position, why would you go on ahead and crash into something that's not going to be inside the next zone? Wouldn't you rather go and try and crash on something that you know has a lot of high priority? But it looks like a lot of these teams that are on the edge are kind of struggling.
Yeah, but it also depends on, like, I think sometimes the players are like, you know what, we're not really going to be able to make it into zone. Let's just try and, you know, grab a few kills if we can.
Yeah.
You know, just so there's at least some points coming in, if not placement points, they at least get those kill points coming in. But now you can see the players here from Dream Team, or the last remaining player from Dream Team, Archer, just positioned there alongside the team there from the Extremes team, as we see Ice and Spammer now being able to rotate all the way out up in towards that far side. We see Rez now also just getting hit by Old Guard. A very challenging zone, quite an exposed region for all these teams to try and push into.
Yeah, this is just a huge fight on the southern side. Oh, he was able to go on ahead and do some damage to one, but he was caught out, especially with that jump there. Too much damage is going to take him down, and now they're just trying to survive inside this blue. But like we already mentioned, the zone hurts a ton. Meanwhile, the rest of these teams are trying to push in now. I wonder if these members of Tactical eSports are going to be able to get these reses onto their teammates.
I mean, either way, it's going to be a pretty tough one. It is quite an open position to be in. So many potential angles that these shots can find their way on in. And one of the only compounds potentially to make any use of is the one where we see the players there from 7 Deadly Sins, which they've already occupied. But unfortunately for them, that is not exactly within the zone. You can see Dream Team Archer now trying to move on up, but beautiful shooting from 7 Deadly Sins as they are still able to retain that position within the compound, as we now have only a few more seconds left on the clock until the blue zone starts moving up once again.
They should be able to go, even though they can't really play the side of that compound anymore, they should be able to go and play the side of that road. Even on the other side of that road, there's actually a huge bowl that they could be playing out of. I mean, right now it's a little bit dangerous because there's so many people that have a little bit of higher territory, but it does look like M4 has figured it out from 7 Deadly Sins, instantly driving on over there and trying to take that hill for himself and his team. From here, he should be able to hold out a lot of these people that are still trying to get inside. I think maybe they will have those sightlines on them if they push on over the ridges.
Oh, I mean, Haspod not even in a position where he can even start worrying about a ridge line, as he is now getting rushed in by that blue zone. 5 teams remain. Oh, Ghetto Youth. Oh, just defending their little shack here. But what a push that was coming in from Tactical. Just an insane play. But unfortunately, the blue zone catches up with them in the process. Down they go. Very abrupt end there to them. And the last remaining player standing between the players from 7 Deadly Sins and the Chicken Dinner just gets absolutely demolished with a beautiful assist coming in from that blue zone. 7 Deadly Sins stealing that Chicken Dinner away. So that bowl really working out in their favor. And of course, they finish off the match on 9 kills.
Everybody was so stuck down in that very southeastern part of the map that every time that the zone kept shifting, people just couldn't keep up with it. It seems like everybody taking a ton of blue damage in those situations.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate rotation for some of these teams, but of course you can see the players there from the old guard finishing up in that second place. Coming in there with 8 kills though. Still a very decent showing there. But then we move over towards Tactical. Finishing in 3rd place, but finishing off on 14 kills.
Wow, yeah, they had a little bit of a mission there, it seems like. They were fighting that entire time and they were able to pick up a ton, even though they went out in 3rd. I mean, that is going to look really, really good for them when it comes to leaderboard.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you on that. And of course, you know, we have a few more teams still to go on through as we see the players there from Ghetto Youth finishing up over in 4th place, finishing then on 4 kills as well. We got Your Killer is over in 5th place on 4. We got the players from Active over in the 6th place, coming in empty-handed. Dream Team finishing over in 7th with 2. We got the players there from Extreme finishing in 8th place, also then on 4 kills. Genesis with a beautiful rush we saw in these later few phases, coming in to 9th place on 5 kills. Resurrection finishing over in 10th place with 1. We got Juntas finishing in 11th on 3. We got Blank Legion over in 12th place. We got the African Rise team over in 13th. We got Version 3 finishing in 14th. The players then, of course, from Extra finishing up in 15th place with 2 kills. And the first team back into the lobby, of course, being the players there from Atrox, getting sent back empty-handed. So a fairly tough game once again for some of these teams, but we really see the teams that were able to make it up into those later phases really being able to bring in a decent amount of kills, especially for the top 3 teams. I mean, 14 kills 3rd place, 8 kills in 2nd, 9 kills in 1st. That is still some fairly high kill count.
It definitely is. It does seem like it was a little bit top lobby heavy for this game, and I think it was because, I mean, in those really hard situations where you're having to continue to move, I mean, there's going to be a few of those teams that are able to go on ahead and continue to just absolutely chain fight and roll a bunch of those people as they're trying to get inside zone. And on the opposite side, the people that are already inside the zone are able to go on ahead and capitalize on a lot of people that are still making their rotations around them. So I think those guys were able to go on ahead and play off a really successful games.
One thing that I'm looking forward to in tomorrow's games, though, is to see whether or not the teams would be able to get a little bit of an earlier rotation done instead of getting caught by that blue zone, because I think that was to the detriment of quite a few teams, you know, getting finished off by the blue instead of being able to make it into those later phases and continue their fight and that push for that chicken dinner. So yeah, that's really something that I'm hoping to see in tomorrow's games as we continue onwards, that the team takeaway from today is they need to get ahead of the blue.
I agree. I do think that they're kind of prioritizing a little bit more fighting than moving, especially in that last game. I think everybody kept getting stuck in situations that they shouldn't have been, but I mean, it's all kind of situational as well. I do think there's also a lot of hard stuff happening down there on their rotations that just had to make them stop and fight. So hopefully next time everybody is able to go on ahead and figure that out.
Yeah, well, let's hope for the best for the games coming in for tomorrow there. But of course, that is going to bring us to the end for our games here for this evening. So I want to give a big thank you to everyone that tuned in to watch. Big ups to the players. And of course, thank you once again to Span for assisting with the aid here today. It was absolutely a blast to have you on the broadcast once again. But of course, looking forward to seeing you back in the next one.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I will hope to go on ahead and join you for tomorrow's game. So we'll have to go on ahead and wait and see.
Yeah, it's going to be a surprise which way around it is going to go. But of course, on that, we're going to end it right here. So thank you so much once again, guys. Have a fantastic evening and see you guys back again tomorrow. Stay safe.